Today we're going to cover two topics. We're going to cover how to manage the most common malfunction on firearms and how to do emergency reloads. Hey, James Ashbacher here again. We're going to do our fourth video today on dry fire drills during quarantine. Today we're going to do two drills. We're going to discuss how to manage the most common malfunction with an immediate action drill, and then how to do an emergency reload. As always, we are practicing safety in all that we do. I've got two magazines here. They're both empty. However, this one I've actually sabotaged. I've taken the base plate off, taken the spring and follower out for one of the drills we're going to do today. Firearm is unloaded and clear. A malfunction on a handgun is essentially when the firearm does something that you did not want it to do. As an example, you press the trigger and it goes click instead of bang. This is the most common malfunction on a handgun, and most commonly it's from shooter-induced error. The most common reason for this is the magazine perhaps wasn't seated all the way when you racked the slide, so it didn't actually load around into the chamber, or perhaps you put a full magazine in, but you forgot to rack around into the chamber. So the way we're going to manage this malfunction, I press out on target, it goes click instead of bang, my finger's going to come off the trigger, I'm going to bring the firearm into my working space, I'm going to tap the magazine, my hand's going to swivel around to the top, my whole hand is going to cover over the top of the slide. I don't want the meat of my palm to be on the slide top because this rear sight could cut my hand, so I'm going to pinch and squeeze here with all four fingers in my palm. From here, I'm going to push forward with my shooting hand and pull back with my non-firing hand, and it looks like this. And I'm going to get my sights back on target and reassess whether or not I still need to press the trigger. So in all, I'm going to be on target, I press the trigger, it goes click instead of bang, my finger comes off the trigger, I bring it into my working space, my eyes are still on the target, I'm going to tap, swivel around to the top, rack, and press back out on target to determine whether or not I still need to press the trigger. Now, a couple nuances of this. I'm using my sabotaged magazine for this drill. If I use a magazine that has a follower in it, it will lock to the rear when I rack the slide. If you don't have a magazine that you've taken the follower out of, you can do the same drill with no magazine. However, if you smack this really hard in the bottom, these sharp edges might bruise your hand a little bit. Another nuance of this drill is that I will see many people bring the firearm down here, bringing your eyes off the target, looking down at your firearm. At all times, we want to have eyes on our threat because that threat could be ever changing. Another nuance, racking the slide. Reaching over the top like this is much easier for most people. I will see people do a pinch grip on the back of the slide. As such, that requires good grip strength on your thumb and is not always the most efficient way of doing it. When I press into the bottom of the magazine, it's super easy for me just to roll my hand around and come to the top. One thing I want to be cautious of is flagging my own hand as I'm doing my tap and rack. From here, I'm going to tap the bottom of the magazine and swivel my hand around to the top of the slide. One thing I'll see people do on occasion is bring their hand in front of their firearm. That is not something we want to do under any circumstance. Now, if I do this and I do it right, I tap the magazine, rack the slide, and I get my sights back on target, and it still goes click instead of bang, I have another problem entirely. I'm going to do a whole nother video on how to manage that coming up. Okay. So here's our drill. I'm going to present to target. It's going to go click instead of bang. Hopefully in your house it shouldn't go bang. But for the drill, we're going to assume it's a malfunction. I'm going to do my immediate action. I'm going to tap rack, reassess, press the trigger. I'm going to do that for a series of 5 repetitions. Good. All right, our second drill is an emergency reload drill. Perhaps you're shooting and the magazine is empty and the slide of your firearm locks to the rear. Or perhaps you have one of those firearms that the slide does not lock to the rear. But at any rate, you're out of ammo and you need to get more ammo back into your firearm. The mechanics of this are very similar to the immediate action drill, which is why I like to pair these two drills together into one series and then ultimately one complex drill. The way I'm going to set this up is I have my sabotage magazine with no follower. I'm going to put that in my mag carrier. If you don't have a mag carrier, you can put it in your pocket. So it's going to go in my mag carrier, and the magazine without ammo with a follower is going to go into my firearm. So the way I'm going to start this drill is by doing an immediate action drill and racking the slide, and it will lock to the rear because the follower is going to press up on the slide lock. So here, I do my immediate action and I notice that my slide is locked to the rear. Now this actually happens to me from time to time if I'm shooting and my thumb stays depressed on this slide lock. Sometimes my firearm doesn't lock to the rear and I'll get a malfunction and I'll do my tap and rack and I'll get this at the very end. So I like to incorporate this into a drill. So at this point, I see that my firearm is empty. I can look into here. I have the orange follower. There's no round in the chamber. There's no ammo in the magazine. So I see I'm out of ammo, so I need to put a fresh magazine into the firearm. What I'm going to do is this. I'm going to strip this empty magazine out of the firearm as I'm reaching for my next full magazine. Many people will just drop their mag, hoping it will fall out, but time and time again, I've done a mag drop and it has stuck in the firearm, whether the mag well was dirty or whatever the case may be. So I'm going to strip the magazine from the firearm. I'm going to hit the mag release, and I'm going to take my non-firing hand and rip it out of the magazine. As I'm doing that, as my hand's coming down, ripping it out of the magazine, it's now going to go toward my other fresh magazine, currently under cover. So I'm going to pull my cover garment up and I'm going to index the magazine. Now, I'm going to show you something really cool. I'm going to take advantage of our proprioception. I can close my eyes, open this hand up, take this finger and put it in my hand. I don't have to look at where those objects are. Our proprioception tells us where our body relates in space to other parts of our body. So, I have my firearm out. I'm going to index my magazine, meaning my index finger is straight and along my magazine. I'm going to try to reach as far down the magazine as I can. Now, what I'm going to do is this. My firearm is still in my working space. I'm going to turn my magazine in, and this finger is going to try to find this hand, and suddenly my magazine is in the mag well. In one motion, I'm going to push this all the way in, roll the hand over the top of the firearm, and rack, and then come back on target. Now that motion of inserting the magazine and racking it looks a lot like our tap, rack, and reassess that we did in this previous drill, which is why I like to pair these two things together. Now there are many people, myself included, that will often hit the slide catch with our thumb to drop the slide. It is much faster. However, if your hands are sweaty or numb or you're stressed out, you may not be able to feel it. Or if you're wearing big winter gloves. So while it's faster, it's not always consistent. So the most consistent way to send your slide forward is to rack the slide. So Slide drop is faster. This is more consistent. Okay, so here's our drill. You're going to keep your eyes on your threat. You're going to draw to your threat. You're going to fire, have a malfunction, tap rack, reassess. You're going to realize you're out of ammo, so you're going to do an emergency reload, and then engage the target 3 more times. Looks like this. Remember guys, smooth and consistent makes you fast, makes you accurate. There were a couple presentations in my last drill where my support hand didn't quite feel consistent, so I gave myself a few extra reps to build that consistency. Check out our other videos on the channel on other drills that we're doing, and if you like this, go ahead and subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. And remember, make today great.